call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
UFC Noche takes place this Saturday, and I'm going to give you guys my predictions and breakdowns for every fight. This card is supposed to be Dana White's love letter to the people of Mexico. Last year we had the Sphere UFC pay-per-view card. This year we've got a Fight Night card in San Antonio with like 5 fighters from Mexico on it. So I feel like this one's kind of been thrown together. I know there's been some last-minute cancellations, some opponents moved around, but either way, still a very good card in my opinion. A lot of good matchups. The main event's gonna be really good. Silva taking on Diego Lopes. So looking forward to all these fights. If you're looking for a little bit more of the thought process and why I'm making my picks, check out my channel. I do dedicated videos to every fight on the card. So with no further ado, let's get into the first fight of the night. This is the Ultimate Fighter finale, the welterweight finale between Daniil Donchenko and Rodrigo Sezinando. I actually watched this this season of the Ultimate Fighter. This show is what originally got me into MMA, but I kind of fell off. Haven't really been watching it. I feel like the talent hasn't been the best, but this season was really good, and was really impressed with Daniil Donchenko, Rodrigo Sezinando as well. I think these guys are very good, have a lot of potential in their careers. But I am going to go with Daniil Donchenko. He's just, I just think the dude's a savage on the feet. You know, that last fight that he had against Matt Dixon, I think it was, he was just tearing him up with elbows. Just going crazy on the feet, landing huge punches, taking a lot of shots as well. Just very tenacious, willing to take one to deliver his strikes as well. Whereas Rodrigo Sezinando kind of plays it safe. You know, he's good everywhere, very technical, looking to get fights to the ground, has a really good jiu-jitsu game, really good control. But I think that Daniil Donchenko, I think he's going to be able to hurt him on the feet. He's one of those guys, he's not looking to go tit for tat. He's not looking to point and strike. He's looking to take your head off. So I think that if he can keep this on the feet, which I think he can, I think he can get it done. I do see a pathway to victory for Sezinando in just kind of biding his time on the feet, shooting in takedowns, and kind of making it a boring fight on the ground. But I think Daniil Donchenko, he's got really good pressure, just very ferocious with his striking, really good movement, throws a lot of kicks, putting a lot of volume out there. I think he can keep Sezinando on his heels, keep him from shooting, and just be the one doing a lot more damage. So I think he can get the finish. You know, Rodrigo Sezinando, he is very tough, but I do think Donchenko can get this one done. If he can't get the finish, I think he can do enough damage over 3 rounds to get the decision in this one. But excited for that one. I like both these guys, but Donchenko, he's just a marauder, you know, very entertaining guy. And I got to go with the guy who's looking to put your lights out versus the guy who's kind of looking to pick and move and be a little bit more strategic about his approach. So going to go with Donchenko. He's younger, going to be a little bit bigger, has more fights. So I'm going to go with Donchenko to get the KO or the decision. Next fight is Montserrat Rendon versus Alice Pereira. So Alice Pereira, youngest fighter to sign with the UFC at 19 years old, even younger than Raul Rosas was, I think. But 6-0, undefeated, comes from a kickboxing background. So she's 5'10", so going to be very tall for the division. It's going to be 2 inches taller than Montserrat Rendon, who's already pretty big. But don't have the reach on Pereira, but I imagine she's going to have a little bit more of a reach than Montserrat. So I'm going to go with Pereira in this one. Rendon, she doesn't have the best striking, you know, kind of telegraphs her punches, doesn't have the most speed or power, doesn't set up her strikes very well, just kind of loops her strikes, doesn't check leg kicks. And I imagine Pereira, you know, just be tearing up her legs. I am concerned that maybe she gets to the ground and gets kind of overwhelmed by Rendon, who is a world champion grappler, supposedly world champion jiu-jitsu grappler from what I hear. Have yet to see that in the UFC though. She hasn't had the best performances in the UFC, hasn't fought the best competition, coming off of a loss to Daria Zeleznikova, and then barely squeaking by to Tamiris Vidal by split decision before that. So not a lot of skill in my opinion for Montserrat Rendon. I think if it stays on the feet, she'll probably get chinned and out of there, or lose the decision. She's getting up there in age as well. She's like 36 years old, so you know, going to be 17 years older than Alice Pereira, who's supposed to be the next big thing, getting signed at 19 years old. So I'm going to go with Alice Pereira. She's actually got some talent, doing a lot of damage on the feet, looking, you know, throw strikes with bad intentions, whereas Montserrat Rendon looks kind of lost on the feet, struggles to get it to the ground. So I'm going to go with Pereira to get this one done by finish, or does enough on the feet to get a decision. Next up is Alessandro Costa versus Alden Coria. So Costa was supposed to be fighting Edgar Suarez, and I guess Edgar Suarez broke his leg or something, which doesn't surprise me. He's got really mean leg kicks. So Alden Coria taking this fight on short notice. Maybe not short notice. I think he probably took the fight at the beginning of August. I know that's when Edgar Suarez pulled out around that time. But Coria coming in off of I think he just won. Yeah, he won the belt against Paris Moran in the Fury promotion. For some reason, it got overturned to a no contest. I don't know if it was like PEDs or something, but I couldn't find out anything online. But Paris Moran's pretty good. I know he was on the UFC's radar for a little bit. Probably would have got the call up if he would have won that fight. But Coria got him with a nasty knockout. It was impressive, and then got a knockout after that over a 4-7 guy. So hasn't faced the best competition on the regional scene. Costa's definitely fought the better guys, but you can only fight who's in front of you. And he's had a lot of success on the regional scene as of late, but he has lost 3 times on the regional scene, which isn't a good look. I just think Costa, I think he's just much more well-rounded. He's got a lot more experience. Jiu-Jitsu black belt, trains with Diego Lopes, has really fast hands, heavy leg kicks, throws really good combinations, not just one and done type of strikes. So a lot of power in the hands, mixes up his targets well. I think he was battering the legs. I think it was Kevin Borjas and Jimmy Flick, like dropping those guys with leg kicks. So I just imagine he's going to be a little bit more well-rounded. Obviously been in the UFC for a while. I think he's going to have the grappling advantage, the power advantage, and just the experience fight IQ advantage. So I'm going to go with Alessandro Costa to get this one done. That's a hard night out for your UFC debut on short notice, taking on somebody like Costa. Moving on to Sedriques Dumas versus Zachary Reese. So Zachary Reese, he just fought Dusko Todorovic, who's also fighting on this card. Kind of a lackluster fight between both those guys. I wasn't really impressed. I picked Zach Reese to win it. He did win by decision, but it was very close. Todorovic had success in the first round getting his takedowns. I think he had like 4 takedowns in that fight, but very back and forth. Zach Reese just seemed like he couldn't really open up with his striking. Wasn't really finding his rhythm at all. I think he was afraid of the takedowns, but Sedriques Dumas, again, very 50-50 in his career. Coming in off of a loss to Mikhail Olachechek, where he's just kind of walked down and beat up. Before that, he beat Denis Tululin in a fight where he just doesn't seem like he really wanted to engage. Just kind of felt like he was afraid to commit to his strikes. And before that, Nursultan Ruzaboev got knocked out, had the eye poke, but lost to Josh Frim before that by guillotine choke, getting hurt by Josh Frim. So I just haven't been very impressed with Sedriques Dumas. Light on the feet, bouncy. Relies a lot on his power. Not the most technical guy, I would say, but I think he's just pretty rudimentary. Nothing really special about him. So I'm gonna go with Zachary Reese. I think he's gonna be the more technical guy, gonna be longer, better on the ground as well. He's got the jiu-jitsu brown belt, very effective off of his back if it does go to the ground. Did a really good job of scrambling back up to his feet in the last fight against Dusko. Has been knocked out a few times. Got knocked out by Bakoev. Some of those strikes might have been to the back of the head, but either way. Got knocked out from guard, got slammed by Cody Brundage. So still kind of not completely sold on Zachary Reese either. He's had some good performances, some good knockouts. Couldn't get Jose Medina out of there, which is a concern though. So still not really sure about Zachary Reese, but I am going to pick him to be able to get past Sedriques Dumas, who, hasn't looked the best as of late. I think he's going through some legal trouble as well, so who knows where his head's at. I think he was supposed to be in a fight. He's supposed to take a fight not too long ago that got canceled for whatever reason against Jackson McVeigh. He had to pull out of that fight at the end of June. So I'm going to go Zachary Reese. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded, a little bit better everywhere, going to have the reach advantage. And I think he's just a little bit more tenacious and a little bit better everywhere. So I'm going to go Zach Reese to get that one done. Luis Gurule takes on Jesus Aguilar for the next fight. I like both these guys. Jesus Aguilar, I think he's really good. I think he's underrated. 11-3 record. He's very aggressive, moves forward, good leg kicks. I think he dropped Tatsuro Taira with some leg kicks in their fight, but has really good KO power. Not the best takedown defense, but he does have good scrambles to kind of stay safe, get back up to his feet. And taking on Luis Gurule, who is a collegiate wrestler, trains out of Factory X. I think he was like a state wrestling champion, went and wrestled collegiately, but very just a gritty dude, tough, stocky, powerful, got really good boxing, mixes up his strikes very well, good feints, good head movement. And I think he gets this one done. He got chinned in his last fight against Ode Osborne, had a really good performance in the first round, kind of tentative at first, afraid of Osborne's power, but eventually got the takedowns, but then got clipped in the second round and TKO'd. But has a good chin outside of that. You know, I've seen him taking shots in the Pickaninny fight. In this one, he didn't, like, I think it was impressive taking that shot and not going completely out. Granted, he still did get TKO'd, but I'm not a fan that Gurule is taking this fight since he got TKO'd back in April, but I think he's going to have the stand-up to be able to match Jesus Aguilar on the feet. I think he's going to be the better wrestler and just be able to kind of dictate where this fight takes place. Shoot takedowns, get Jesus Aguilar on the ground. Aguilar might be able to scramble up or, you know, defend the takedowns at first, but he does kind of start to slow down when he's having to grapple a lot. We saw that in his fight with Menendonca. So I trust Gurule just with his overall skill set, his endless gas tank. You know, we saw him pushing a high pace against Pickaninny in that Dana White's Contender Series fight. A guy who's a very good wrestler. He was able to kind of edge that decision and win that fight. So I think Gurule gets it done. I think he's got more damage potential on the feet as well, and then also on the ground. Jesus Aguilar, you know, he's been out grappled by some guys, but a lot of them just seem like they're there more to positionally control and hunt submissions, whereas Luis Gurule, I think he's going to be able to control, but also, you know, be landing damaging shots and looking to get him out of there. So I'm going to go with Luis Gurule to get this one done by decision. Next fight is Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos. You know, Amanda Lemos coming off of a fraud check of Yasmin Lucindo in a very impressive fight back in March. The young up-and-comer was able to kind of defend her takedowns and win the fight on the ground. She's just very big, has a lot of power in the feet, gets a lot of respect, has a lot of experience as well. She's fought, you know, the who's who of the division. She's fought Weili Zhang before, beat Mackenzie Dern, had a good fight with Verna Jandaroba, knocked out Marina Rodriguez, Angela Hill she's beat, Michelle Watterson, Jessica Andrade. So she's had a lot of really high-level fights. I think she's got the better resume. You know, Tatiana Suarez, she's only fought 3 times in the last 6 years. Doesn't have the most high-profile wins, I would say. Montana De La Rosa, Nia Nunez, Carla Esparza, like Alexa Grasso, that's a good win. Jessica Andrade, but she hasn't looked the best as of late. And then her last fight against Weili Zhang, had a good first round, got the takedown, won the first round. Second round, got the takedown, but as soon as she couldn't get her takedowns anymore, she was just kind of lost on the feet. You know, she's a world-class wrestler, but she relies very heavily on being able to get it to the ground, control her opponents, look for submissions. Has really good chokes. She's a jiu-jitsu brown belt, but I feel like if she can't get her takedown, she kind of crumbles. She doesn't really have the best stand-up. If you get her on her back, she doesn't have a lot to offer off of her back. She seems like she's one of those jiu-jitsu practitioners who's really heavy, really good on top, but off bottom is looking to really wrestle up, not really looking for sweeps or playing with her open guard. So I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos. You know, she's a big underdog in this, but I think she's the better striker. I think she's definitely got more power on the feet. She's more explosive. She's got decent takedown defense at 59. I guess that's not even decent, but she's been taken down a few times in the UFC. She's taken down a lot by Zhang Weili, and I think that's why her takedown defense is kind of skewed. But I think she'll be able to defend the takedowns enough to get this win over Suarez. You know, she's very strong. She's very athletic. She's got very high fight IQ. She's going to be able to get a lot of respect on the feet against Tatiana Suarez. I think she'll be kind of carrying her hands low just to have those natural underhooks as Tatiana shoots in, but, you know, showing uppercuts, showing knees. And I think she'll be kind of taking the center of the cage on the offensive, putting volume out there, keeping Suarez on her heels, not letting her, you know, push forward and get her takedowns. So, you know, Lemos, she's a brown belt. She's very skilled in jiu-jitsu as well. Definitely not the better wrestler, but I think that she mixes up all the facets of MMA very well. She had really good scrambles in previous fights, had sweeps on Verna Jandaroba in their fights. So I'm going to trust her just with her overall skill set. Whereas Tatiana's kind of a one-trick pony. If she can't get it to the ground, it's going to be a bad night for her. And we've seen Amanda Lemos be able to kind of defend the takedowns and derail a prospect in Lucindo in her last fight. So I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos in this one. Big underdog, but I'm just not convinced by Suarez in her last fight. I get it. It's Zhang Weili. She's very good. Obviously the best in the world, but it just didn't look like she had a plan B. And it seemed like for the last 3.5 rounds, she was just kind of lost in there and didn't really have any method to win the fight other than panic shooting and trying to get the fight to the ground. So I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos to do enough damage and keep it on the feet long enough to get a decision. Next fight is Joaquim Silva versus Claudio Puelles. So Claudio Puelles was a prospect coming up, had a bunch of knee bars and leg locks, not the best on the feet. Whereas Joaquim Silva, also a jiu-jitsu black belt, but much more dangerous on the feet. Very aggressive striker. He's got power in the hands. Dropped Jakar close in their last fight in the 3rd round. Was hurting Guida, even hurt Arman Sarukian in the fight that they had before he got finished. So I'm going to go with Joaquim Silva. I think Puelles is going to be desperately trying to get this to the ground, and if he can't, he's probably going to get chinned on the feet. So Silva's just much more dangerous on the feet. I think he'll be able to keep it there. He has been chinned in the past, by Nasrat Haqparast, by Ricky Glenn, Arman Sarukian, TKO'd him with ground and pound, but I don't think Puelles has the striking ability to really get any respect or hurt Silva or keep him from pushing forward and being on the offensive and keeping Puelles on the back foot. Silva's got decent takedown defense. He's got really good footwork to avoid the takedowns. I think that he'll be able to utilize that footwork, and even if it does go to the ground, I think he'll be able to kind of nullify what Puelles is bringing, be able to stay safe from the knee bars, get back up to his feet, and I think he can get the KO. I think he can get the KO over Puelles. He's got more knockout power, more killer instinct, just more finishing potential everywhere. I think he can finish him on the ground, can definitely finish him on the feet, and he's just tougher, much grittier dude, more comfortable and skilled on the feet, whereas Puelles, you saw in that Dan Hooker fight, he wasn't having any success getting to the ground. He just looked kind of lost, panicky, desperate on the feet. I can't unsee him pulling guard, Eminari rolling for legs against Dan Hooker when he wasn't getting any of his grappling going. I think that's what we'll see in this one, though, is the fight not really going the way that he wants, not being able to get his grappling going, and kind of just getting pieced up on the feet by Joaquim Silva. So I'm going to go with Joaquim Silva to get this one done by KO. Next fight is Jose Medina versus Dusko Todorovic. This is a kind of loser leaves the organization match between these two. Jose Medina, not the most skilled guy in the world. He's tough. I'll give him that. He can take a shot. He's resilient. But he did get cracked and put out by Atiba Gauthier in his last fight, so I'm wondering if his chin is kind of done for. Like I said, decent boxing. He's tough, but other than that, he's just not the most skilled guy, unfortunately. And Dusko Todorovic, regardless of the fact that he might be a little fragile, can be finished at times, I think he is pretty skillful on the feet, skillful enough to not get hurt and to be able to put volume and damage on Medina. But I also think his wrestling is light years above Medina, who was taken down several times in his last few fights. I think Zach Reese got him down 5 times. Magomed Gadzhizulov got him down 6 times. I think Dusko's going to be able to push a high pace, mix it up with his striking, his grappling, and get this one done. He's able to get Reese was able to get takedowns and laying ground and pound on Medina. And if Zach Reese can do that, I think Dusko Todorovic can do that. He was on the Serbian national team, so very good wrestler, very good entries on his takedowns that he disguises with his hands. He's a Taekwondo black belt, Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he's got really good kicks, really good flexibility, and a really good technical striking on the feet, even though he has been kind of hurt and put out a few times. But I just think Dusko is a little bit better everywhere, more well-rounded, and I think he'll be able to kind of mix in his clinch work, his grappling, have some success on the feet, and get this one done. I just don't trust Jose Medina, who I also think is kind of undersized. He's kind of soft-bodied for middleweight, which also kind of helps him take the damage that he does, had the gas tank that he does, but he just doesn't have any really good wins. Even his wins on the regional scene before he got into the UFC, 4-2, split decision over a guy who's 4-2 to get a Dana White's Contender Series shot, beat a guy who was 11-23 before that. Anybody with any real record, 12-3, he's losing to, lost to a guy who's 9-8. So I don't know. I think Dusko's just more skilled, and I don't think Medina has the power or the skill on the feet to really hurt him. So I think that allowed Dusko Todorovic to kind of take over and get that one done. Next one up is Santiago Luna versus Quang Lee. So Quang Lee had a really good performance in his last fight against Gaston Bolaños with his grappling. Eventually got the finish. Got knocked out by Long Zhao before that in a fight that was really back and forth. He was having success on the feet, having success grappling. Took a short notice fight with Chris Gutierrez where he was able to get takedowns, was kind of getting his legs battered. That's a really bad UFC debut against somebody like Chris Gutierrez on short notice. But taking on Santiago Luna, who is also taking this fight on short notice, Quang Le. There was I think he was supposed to be fighting David Martinez or Carlos Vera, or something happened, but David Martinez got bumped up, so now Quang Le's taking on this guy, Santiago Luna, on short notice. Luna, 21 years old, 6-0, undefeated, going to be a little bit taller, going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. He's a national wrestling champion out of Mexico. I watched some of his fights. He wasn't the most technical early on, but he really looked like he was making leaps and bounds in his striking in his most recent fight, where he got the knockout on Tough Enough back in May. Hasn't really fought any guys that are, good in my opinion, or have good records, other than this Baiduev guy, this Russian guy that he beat by submission round 3. So he's got a lot of potential, but just he's very young, very green. I think Quang Le, he's just got more experience than Luna, who does have good wrestling. He's got good hands, he's got a lot of potential, but I just haven't seen anything that makes me think that he can beat somebody with the experience and skill level of Quang Le. Like I said, hasn't fought the best competition. He's very young. He's got a lot of time to improve. Sometimes I feel like these guys get rushed into the UFC too early. Whereas Quang Le, he's 33, middle of his prime. Looked really good over the last few fights. I think he's got decent wrestling to be able to compete with Santiago Luna. Good hands as well. I think the odds are very close on this one, but I got to go with Quang Le. More UFC experience. I trust him more than this young kid coming off the regional scene on short notice, so I'm going to go with Quang Le to get this one done. Next fight, Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. So Alexander Hernandez on a 3-fight winning streak right now. Just knocked out Chase Hooper in the first round of their fight. You could argue it was an early stoppage, but either way, he landed a great right cross to drop him and get the TKO. Before that, beat Kurt Hallbaugh and then beat Austin Hubbard. Kind of squeaked out those wins, in my opinion. But looked good as of late. He's explosive, good striker, decent kicks, decent wrestling defense. He's got a jiu-jitsu black belt. He doesn't really use it a lot. He uses it kind of more defensively to keep it on the feet and to stay safe if it does go to the ground, but really good cardio, has a lot of really good experience. He's very well-rounded. But taking on Diego Ferreira, who's going to be a little bit older. By a little bit, I mean 8 years older. Both of them are 5'9". Ferreira is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. And Diego Ferreira, I feel like he's I feel like he's very underrated. He had his time there where he was, racking up several losses. Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, Mateusz Gamrot. Those guys are very high level. The Gregor Gillespie fight, he had some really good scrambles, really good wrestling ability. Took that fight on short notice, kind of fizzled out in the end of round 2, just after a really chaotic back and forth fight. And then the Mateusz Gamrot fight, also doing a really good job of defending the takedowns and keeping it on the feet. Ended up getting his rib broken in that fight and TKO'd, but ever since he came back, took a little bit of a hiatus there, but then knocked out Michael Johnson, had a barn burn of a fight against Mateusz Rebecki to get the win there, and then recently was just kind of controlled on the ground by Grant Dawson, and Grant Dawson's elite. He does that to everybody, so no shame in that performance, but I'm going to go with Diego Ferreira. I just think that he does everything a little bit better. He's got really good boxing, crisp combos, got a lot of power, he's accurate, good chin, can take a shot. Like I said, a really good scrambling ability, really good wrestling, good takedowns. He's like a 3rd-degree jiu-jitsu black belt, so very dangerous on the ground. I just think he's going to edge out Alexander Hernandez here, who I do think can fight on the outside, pick his shots, defend some takedowns, and win a decision. That seems to be the way that he's approaching a lot of his fights, and winning or losing a lot of his fights. But I trust Ferreira to be landing the better, more damaging shots on the feet. I think he's the better submission artist. I think he's got really good takedown defense if Hernandez does try to mix it up, and a really good scrambling ability to where he's not going to accept bottom position if Hernandez does get him down. And I think he's the better striker. I think he's going to be able to outstrike him on the feet, kind of hunt him down, cut off the cage, get his angles, and start to put pause on Alexander Hernandez, who he did just knock out Chase Hooper, but Chase Hooper didn't look the best on the feet. Hasn't really looked the best on the feet in his career. He had that performance over Vakyslav Borshev where he dropped him, but you look back at the fight against who did he fight that one time? The guy that's on a run right now. Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia just made him look like an amateur. So, but I'm gonna go with Diego. I think he's more dangerous everywhere. Not afraid to mix it up on the feet, shoot takedowns. I think he's just much tougher. I think he's more of a fighter, and Alexander Hernandez is more of an athlete. So, I think when things are getting tough, Diego's going to be the one who can dig a little bit deeper. Take a shot to deliver one, and I think he'll get this one done. I trust Diego Pereira, even though he is 40 years old, but he's looked really good as of late. Next fight is Kelvin Gastelum versus Dustin Stoltzfus. So, Kelvin Gastelum, probably the biggest waste of talent in the UFC, now 33 years old, fighting at middleweight, even though he should be fighting at welterweight. He's 5'9", with a 71-inch reach, but been kind of 50-50 at welterweight as well, but had some good performances at middleweight. Beat Chris Curtis, lost to Sean Brady at welterweight, beat Daniil Rodriguez, who he's always dangerous, had a really good performance in his last fight against Kevin Holland, and went tit for tat with Joe Pyfer. Got hurt really bad twice in that first round, but as that fight progressed, he was really able to kind of get his boxing going and land the better strikes. Definitely won round 3. Round 2 was very questionable. So Kelvin Gastelum, he's not the most reliable guy. You never really know which form of him is going to show up, and I worry in this fight because Dustin Stoltzfus is very big. He's very strong. He's got good grappling. He's got good takedowns. And Kelvin Gastelum, he's soft-bodied, has kind of small legs, not the biggest, strongest guy, but he is very good at wrestling. He's got really good stand-up. I just worry about the size disparity with Dustin Stoltzfus. He's very big, he's dense, he's strong. But I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum to get this one done. I think he's got the cardio. Now that he's not really cutting weight to push a high pace over 3 rounds, take a good shot, even though I don't think Stoltzfus is going to be able to land on him as much. Stoltzfus had some success with the striking, like against Marc-Andre Barriault, but I think Kelvin Gastelum's just going to be a little bit too elusive with his footwork, and I think he's only going to have to worry about the takedowns from Stoltzfus and not necessarily what's coming at him on the feet. So I think he'll be able to use his footwork to land the shots, stay away from the takedowns, and just kind of avoid the grappling of Stoltzfus. He has decent wrestling takedown defense. He does come from a collegiate wrestling pedigree, I believe. He was taken down a few times in his career. Sean Brady got him down a lot. Robert Whitaker got him down a lot. But those guys are elite. They're very good wrestlers. I just think Kelvin, he's much more polished on the feet, much more polished striker. He's just going to be tagging Dustin Stoltzfus, using his angles, using his quickness to stay out of the clinch, stay out of takedown trouble, and kind of be the one pushing forward, keeping Dustin Stoltzfus on his heels to where he can't shoot, and just landing the better shots. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum to get this one done. Next fight is Rafa Garcia versus Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, very impressive performance in his last fight against Thiago Moises. Was able to get the takedown, control the fight on the ground, and then get the knockout over Thiago Moises. Before that, lost a split decision to Nasrat Haqparast in a very close fight. You could argue he won. But, Jared Gordon had some split decisions that didn't go his way. Some weird fights like the one against King Green. But outside of that, I think Jared Gordon is a very capable fighter. High-level black belt, really good wrestling. Really good stand-up as well, obviously knocking out Thiago Moises. Has good boxing, power in the hands. He's just got relentless forward pressure he puts on guys to break them, looking to tire them out. Mixes it up, kicks guys, kick the legs, throw the hands, shoot him for a takedown, throw punches off the clinch. Just very gritty, very tough, really good cardio. And Rafa Garcia, I feel like he's kind of a brute, stocky boxer type guy mixing his takedowns, but I feel like if he can't get his takedowns going, he doesn't have a lot of success in his fights. I feel like he has to be able to grapple and kind of control the fight on the ground to be successful, to kind of open up his strikes and to do enough to win rounds, so to speak. And Jared Gordon is really good at sprawling and brawling, keeping the fight on the feet if he wants to, or taking it to the ground if he thinks that's a pathway to victory for him. So I think Rafa Garcia, I think he's been blessed with some favorable matchups. 42-year-old Vince Pichel in his last fight that he barely squeaked by. Clay Guida, he's able to outstrike these grapplers, and then able to outgrapple these strikers like Mahashate. And Grant Dawson absolutely dominated him on the ground. And I think that Jared Gordon could probably do the same. I think he's got the jiu-jitsu and wrestling ability to get it to the ground, do some damage, or look for submission. So I just think Rafa's got a very simple skill set. That, and the same strategy he brings to every fight. Kind of moves forward on a line, throws 1-2s, mixes in some leg kicks, looks for takedowns, and I just think Jared Gordon's a little too well-rounded. I think he's going to be the better jiu-jitsu practitioner, better wrestler, and definitely have the better hands. He's got a decent chin. He has been chinned a few times in the past, but I think he'll have good enough defense, good enough movement, good enough overall skill set to put things together to get past Rafa Garcia in this one. Next fight is David Martinez versus Rob Font. Rob Font was supposed to be fighting Raul Rosas Jr., which is a big step up in competition for Raul Rosas Jr. I probably would have went with Rob Font in that one, honestly. But taking on David Martinez now, who's a Taekwondo guy, comes from a Taekwondo background since he was like a young kid. So very explosive, dynamic kicks, excellent footwork, dangerous on the feet, coming in off of a win over Simon Oliveira in his UFC debut. Got that knockout in the first round, I think it was. But taking on Rob Font, who's got tons of experience, primarily a boxer, throws a lot of high volume, good footwork, jiu-jitsu brown belt as well. I think he has the most wins or most KOs at 135 pounds in the UFC. So tons of experience, tons of finishing potential. So I'm going to go with Rob Font to get this one done. He's got the experience, the veteran savvy. He's fought the who's who at 135 pounds. If you look at his record, Martinez has the explosivity. He's got the knockout potential early on in the fight. But I think Rob Font's just as good of a striker. I think he's going to be able to kind of weather that storm, look for takedowns, and just use his overall skill set to get past David Martinez, who's kind of one-dimensional. And I think Rob Font will be able to kind of weather the early storm that he brings, control the pace with his striking, and just use his savvy, his fight IQ, his composure to kind of handle the aggressive, high-energy style of Martinez. Martinez he almost throws too hard if you watch some of his fights, where I think that he can end up gassing himself out, or I think Rob Font will be able to kind of time those movements that he has, kind of pull out those big attacks of his, and look to counter him or tax his gas tank. Martinez taking this on short notice. I think he was, like I said, training for this fight, but not necessarily against Rob Font. So Rob Font is a hard person to switch up and take on short notice, just because he is very talented. He's got a lot of experience in the UFC. He's only losing to really good guys. He's losing to Jose Aldo, Davison Figueiredo, Corey Sandhagen, Marlon Vera, Rafael Alessandro, like Pedro Munoz, John Lineker. He's only losing to really elite guys. And so I don't think that he's going to lose to somebody like David Martinez, who he's really only got to worry about his striking coming his way, be aware of his kicks, his explosive strikes that are probably going to start to dwindle down as the fight progresses. I think Rob Font can start to take over, utilize his wrestling and just his overall skill and experience to get this one done. I don't rate some of the wins from David Martinez. I don't rate a knockout over Simon Oliveira. He went to a decision on the Contender Series to a guy who was 5-0. So I don't know. I don't think that I haven't seen enough from David Martinez. He is flashy. He does have viral knockouts, but I haven't seen enough from him to think that he's going to take out a dog and veteran like Rob Font. So going to go with Rob Font to get that one done. On to the main event, Diego Lopes versus Gene Silva. So I'm looking back through Diego Lopes' career, and I look at his wins, and you look at his performance against Volk. It was a decent performance. Now that I watched it back, it wasn't necessarily as bad as I thought it was. But a win over Brian Ortega in 2024. Who's not beaten Brian Ortega? Dan Ige, hasn't looked the best as of late. Been kind of 50-50, coming in off of a loss to Pitbull. Beat Sean Woodson in a fight that he was losing. Lost to Lerone Murphy. Bryce Mitchell beat him. So I don't know. Sadiq Youssef just lost to Myron Santos. How good is he? Beats Pat Sabatini, Gavin Tucker. So he's good. He is very good, but I just don't think he is the level of Gene Silva, who hasn't lost in 7 years. He's very explosive on the feet, throws really good kicks, spinning attacks, spinning elbows. Very athletic, tons of power, very big for 145 pounds. Manages the distance very well, manages the pocket, so to speak. kind of engages guys to kind of draw them into the pocket so that he can counter. He'll go first and third. Fights well everywhere, on the back foot, going forward. Really good left hook, feints well. So I'm going to go with Gene Silva to get this one done over Diego Lopes. I feel like Diego Lopes is kind of just wild on the feet. Throws with really bad intentions, but kind of just wings punches at times. And we've seen him pay for that in the fight with Volk, where he's kind of getting countered and getting cracked. Puts a lot on his punches, and I've heard he's got a lot of power. I think it was Dan Ige said that he hasn't, felt as much power by anybody as much as Diego Lopes. So kind of just comes in straight at times, just kind of rudimentary. But he is a jiu-jitsu black belt. I think he's the head jiu-jitsu trainer at his gym. But I think Diego Lopes is, I don't want to say he's overrated, but I just don't think he's faced the best competition. Like, he beats Pat Sabatini only because Pat Sabatini couldn't really get his takedowns, doesn't have the best striking. Lost to Movsar Evloev, but he took that on short notice. Sub Gavin Tucker. His wins just haven't aged very well. His performance against Volk was good, but Volk still beat him pretty clearly. He was just on another level, and I think that's how I feel. Like, I feel like Gene Silva is just going to be on another level from him. I think that he's going to be able to kind of pull the wild combinations and strikes out of Diego using his feints and his pressure, and I think he's just going to be kind of frustrating him on the feet, landing the better strikes, where Diego, he's kind of panic shooting and doesn't really have any option other than to shoot or get cracked by Gene Silva. I see him shooting takedowns, maybe partially getting them, but Gene Silva does a really good job of defending takedowns, or if he does get taken down, popping right back up. I just see Silva being able to kind of tax his gas tank, defend the takedowns, and putting a lot of damage on him, and seeing Diego Lopes kind of start to slow down in that fight. Diego, he does well when he blitzes and kind of fights wildly, but you can only do that up to a certain point. You're going to get to a point where you're fighting the Volkanovskis and the Gene Silvas, where it just doesn't really work anymore. And I feel like if he does that against Gene Silva's going to spark him coming in. But if he doesn't do that and tries to fight at like a measured, slower pace, that Gene Silva's going to eventually take over in that area as well. So I feel like he's got to kind of make it chaotic, slam leg kicks, shoot takedowns, open up his striking, and just kind of push forward, throwing the wild strikes that he does to really stand a chance against Gene Silva. Try to catch him in transition, try to take him by surprise. We have seen Gene Silva get hit in the past. He was hit a few times by Drew Dober. Drew Dober was getting his respect on the feet, but I don't know. I think if he doesn't do that, I think it's going to be a bad night for him. He might get chinned if he does go out and try to fight that way, but I just don't see him winning like a technical tit-for-tat matchup against somebody like Gene Silva. I think he has to make it dirty and just try to catch him, because I think Gene Silva is too good on the feet, too good on the ground. I think everywhere that Diego excels, Gene Silva just does as good, if not better. So I got to go Gene Silva. He hasn't given me a reason to pick against him yet. He's looked really good in his career so far, coming in off of the ninja choke over Bryce Mitchell, which is another thing. He threatens very well with those ninja chokes. This guy shoot in those front chokes, can knock you out, can sub you, can outlast you. Cardio's never been a concern. Never seen the guy breathing hard in this fight. So I'm going to go with Gene Silva to get this one done. I think he can get the finish over Diego Lopes. Unfortunately, I'm a big fan of both these guys, but got to go with Gene Silva to get this one done. So if you're still here, appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you're looking for a little bit more nitty-gritty details on each of these fighters, how they match up, and kind of why I'm picking them, check out my channel. But other than that, like and subscribe. Leave me some comments on what you guys think. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.